Welcome to Byte and Beyond with Uday. In last video, we have learned how to add validation in our Spring Boot application. While adding validation in Spring Boot application is great, but how we can how we can add our custom messages uh, in Spring Boot validation? How we can use our Spring custom messages with the validation? So if we see our our APIs, then if there is something is wrong with our request body, in that case we are getting 400 bad request and this particular response. While this is great, while looking at while looking to this response, we can see there is something wrong with our request body. But there is one problem. We don't know what exactly wrong with our request body. So that is why it is better to have a custom validation messages in our response, right? Because over here, by looking at the response body, I'm not sure what is wrong with my request body, where I am making a mistake. So that I am not sure. Right, because in our case, over here the salary is less than 7,000, but we have kept that our minimum salary. So let me go to the employee DTO. Here is the employee DTO. Okay, so our minimum salary is 8,000. Over here we are passing 7,000, but I am not sure what is wrong with my request body. So how do I know that our minimum salary should be 8,000? How will user know that our minimum salary should be 8,000? So that is not so this response is not helpful in this way, right? Because user will never know what is wrong with their request body. User can only see there is 400 bad requests. User can get an idea that yes, there is something wrong with the request, but it is not sure what exactly it is, right? So for that, it is better to add a custom validation message. So instead of this generic response or generic error, we will get the meaningful response from our server. For example, in this case, we might get the response like, hey, employee minimum salary should be greater than equal to 8,000, right? So it's meaningful and user can know and user can accordingly update or correct his or her request body, right? So instead of here, user can say, yeah, right, you are right. By mistakenly, I have typed 7,000, but yes, employee's salary is 8,000 over here. Okay, so in order to start, if you want to do hands-on with me, I recommend you to go to the GitHub, find find this repository, Spring Boot Practical. If you want to find, what you can do need to do is you just need to let me remove everything from here, remove the space as well, and just type like this Patel 07 forward slash, and this is the repository name. That's it, and you will be navigate to the this page, right? Just click on it, switch to the clone this project if you haven't done yet. Switch, check out to this 11 validation branch, and you are ready to do hands-on with me, right? So let's begin. How we can basically add a custom validation messages uh, in our Spring Boot application. So far we already have added the validation. Now next step is to how to what I can say how to add custom validation messages. So for that I have created few steps. We will go step by step. Our first step is write friendly validation messages in messages.properties so users see clear errors. So our first step is to create message.properties and add few messages over there, right? So let me create one. So let's switch back to the IDE, and so where will we create this messages.properties? So those kind of static data or static files goes into the resources folder. Okay. So over here, I am creating new file which is messages.properties, right? Messages.properties. Yeah, looks good. Now let me, type few messages over here. So this message is for our employee DTO. So for that, let me type employee. So over here we can see we have added three validation. First is on the first name, second one is on the email, and the third one is on the salary. So let's write messages for each of this validation, right? So we need to write three messages. One for first name, second one for email, and third one for the salary. Okay, so let's do that. So we are writing our custom messages for employee. So the first, so we should start with the employee, and then our field name, first name. Okay, and then I'm writing not blank, because why I'm writing not blank, because you can see the annotation which I am using over here is not blank. So that is why I'm using not blank over here. And the message is first name must not be blank. So user will get to know that yes, my first name should not be blank. Now our second validation message is for email field. So over here, you can guess I will write email dot valid, and our message is please provide a valid email address. Okay, looks good, right? Okay, and third one is for our salary. So employee dot salary dot minimum. So salary must be at least, and this is the what I can say. Um, this is the holder for this value, basically value. So whatever I have written over here, it will be appended with these messages. So instead of 0, I need to change it with the value. Okay, so what our message will be? Salary must be at least 8,000. Where 8,000 is coming from? 8,000 is coming from here, right? So our first step is ready, right? So our first step is done. Now what second step says? It says use those messages in employee DTO validation annotation. Okay. So let's switch back to the employee DTO. So over here we need to add minor changes. We need to do some minor changes over here. So let me do that. Okay. So what will I do? Over here on the first name, I will type, because I want to use custom messages, right? So I will use the message field over here, and inside the curly braces, okay, this is yeah, one more thing. So you can directly write messages over here, but this is not a good practice. You should always keep your what I can say, uh, keep your this static constant data basically out of your source code, right? So you should keep those all this, all kind of this configuration, or all this kind of constant messages you should keep in a separate place. You should not, hard code this value directly inside your Pojo or DTO classes, right? So this is not a good practice if you are, directly using these messages inside your DTO. So good practice is move all these constants into the separate file, which is messages.properties, right? So this is the good practice. And instead of writing the message directly. Instead of that, write key. So which key we will use over here? We will use this one, employee first name not blank, right? So employee first name not blank. So what is the benefit of this? What I can say, if we are using separate file to store our all the messages. So if there is something I need to change, I just need to change this message.properties, right? I don't need to change my employee DTO. Okay. And let's say I want to use this message at multiple places, right? Let's say we have another class as well. For example, address. Okay, and address is also want to use this message. So I can use this field. So in this case, I want uh, I, I will change the this key. I will use some generic name that DTO first name not blank or DTO particular field not blank. So I can reuse this message at multiple places, right? If I want to, and it's better to it's a good practice to separate these constant messages and our source code. It's a good design, right? So it's better to keep everything separate. Okay, so not blank for not blank we are done. Then let's write a message key for our email address. Okay, so for that it is email dot employee dot email dot valid. You can see over here employee dot email dot valid, right? And here we will keep the value because yeah we need that for our we need that to decide what is our minimum value, right? And over here I have written the key employee salary mean, right? So yeah, I think our second step is also completed. Now, what our step is says. So our third step is important because what happens when this criteria doesn't match? For example, let's say user is not sending request, not sending the first name in the request body. Let's say in this case, let's say Harry is forgot to add first name in his request body. So in that case, he will get the 400 bad request. But what happens behind the scene? So whenever user send this kind of request, okay, Spring Boot validates that request body and check that hey, the first name is missing over here. So it basically throw an exception, right? And Spring Boot throw an exception and it directly show that message to us, this message to us. It basically throw an exception. Spring Boot prepare a JSON response for that, add appropriate timestamp, status, error and path, and it basically directly, it basically return this response to the user. But in our case, we want to modify this this response. In our case, we need some meaningful messages over here. For that, we need to write a code and write a code which will help us to, get these messages which we have written in the this messages dot properties. So let me create our REST controller advice. Okay, so for that, what will I do? I will create one more package. Let's say exception. I will basically tell you how uh, flow, how the request travels from starting to end when the exception occurs. I will explain you all the whole flow, how basically request travels, right? So don't worry. So let me create our controller advice, which will handle the exception and it will help us to add our messages in the response body, right? No, I'm not saying request body in response body. Body meaning we are whatever the response we are returning, we are getting from the server, right? So this is response. So this exception, this race controller advisor basically help us to add our custom messages in the response body, right? So for that, let me create new class. The class name should be validation. Okay, validation exception handler. Okay, validation exception handler. Okay, and I will annotate this class with the race controller advice. Okay, so this is the basically a new top. You might thinking what is race controller advice, or there is another annotation at the rate controller advice. You might thinking what this annotation does. So don't worry about this. I will create a separate video. This is a separate concept, so I will create a separate video on it. So for the bare minimum, if you want to know this, and if we annotate this class with the race controller advice, all the exception uh, occurs in our application will go through from this class. I mean, let's say a null pointer exception occurs. So it comes to this class and we can handle that exception in this class if we want to, right? So that's all you need to know. This this controller advice basically handle the exceptions which occurs in our Spring Boot application. I will create a detailed video on this topic as well, so don't worry. This is enough in our case, right? So let me create a method over here. The method return type should be response entity, okay, and inside the response entity, I will return the object as a map and its key and value a type of string. Okay, and what should be the method name over here? The method name should be this looks perfect to me, handle validation exception. So that is perfectly fine. Let me do that. And over here, let me annotate this method. So this method is basically we have declared to handle validation specific exception. So for that, I will use exception handler, and inside the exception handler, I will use method argument. Okay, I will use method argument. Okay, argument not validation. Yeah, this one, first one. Method argument not validation exception dot class. So I will use that class. So let me complete this method and I will help you to understand what exactly I'm doing over here. So let me create a map of type string. Okay, the key type is string, value type is also string, name is errors. Okay, and over here let me add a parameter as well. Method argument not validation exception. Okay, over here let me say except just a second. Let me say space exception. Okay, perfect. And over here let me iterate through this exception and let me get binding results. Yeah, that is right. Because in the binding result we have fields, get field errors, and then I will iterate all this because I will get multiple errors. I will iterate through these errors and I will put the field and the default message inside the map. Okay, you can see. So what I'm doing over here. Let me explain from start. Let me return the map from here. So basically, I'm okay. So what will happen when you accidentally or intentionally send invalid request? So in this case, okay, in this case, the Harry is forgot to add a first name. So whenever he tries to send the request, it got the this bad request error, right? So what will happen in the background? So whenever Harry sends this request, it goes to the a Spring Boot validation. Okay, Spring Boot validation sees that, hey, for the first name there is a other not blank annotation. So basically, Spring Boot will throw an exception. Okay, which exception? Spring Boot will throw this exception, a method argument not validation exception, method argument not valid exception, right? So Spring Boot will throw an exception whenever there is a first name is not present or it is blank, right? Whenever there is a first name is not present, Spring Boot will throw an exception. That exception will come over here. Okay, inside this race controller advice, and then it basically checks which method has declared the method argument not valid exception handler. So this method is handling this particular exception. So we can create multiple methods like this for to handle different type of exception. In our case, we just want to handle validation exception, so this is sufficient. So the exception come inside this class, and then it says there is a validation exception, so it comes into this method. Okay, and over here we are basically creating a map. Okay, you can see this map, and we are using this exception, and we are getting the results. So what kind of exception we are getting? To get to know those things, we are saying get binding results, and on which field we are getting that exception. So for that, there could be multiple fields. So for that, I am using get field errors method, and I'm I'm iterating through the all the fields. So for example, let's say there is a error with not blank and the email as well. So we will get multiple fields, right? Okay. So we will iterate through this fields. The first field will be first name and its default message, right? So its message will come from here. So whenever Spring Boot throw an exception, it basically Spring Boot resolves this key. Okay, by resolving this key, Spring Boot get the this value. First name must not be blank, and same for the other field as well, right? And then that exception come to this class, and then later in this method, and over here we are iterating through all the fields, and we are adding those fields inside our map, right? Error dot get fields, and over here we are getting the message, get default message, and in the end we are returning the map inside the wrapping inside we are wrapping the map inside the response entity. We are setting the response code or response status as a bad request 400, which we can see over here. Bad request meaning 400, and we are adding the body map in the body. So that's what we are doing over here. So we are done with the our risk controller advisor as well. Okay. Now what is the last step? So yeah, our coding is done. Yes, it is that simple. We just need to follow these three steps, and by doing that this we can simply use our custom messages, right? So now final step is to let's test this. Okay. So for that, let me restart my application. Okay, application restarted, and now let me try this. See, now you can see meaningful messages instead of generic generic response or generic error from the server or Spring Boot. Now we can see meaningful messages, right? So we have made two mistakes over here. Uh, the first mistake is our first name is missing. For that, we are getting first name must not be blank, right? And then our second mistake is you can see we forgot to add at the rate over here. So that is why our email become invalid. So for that, we are getting please provide a valid email address, right? And let's say by mistake instead of 8,000 I am typing 7,000, so I should get the um, what I can say, I should get the error for the salary as well. So let's send this request. See, you are getting the error for the salary as well. Now it says salary must be at least 8,000, right? We are getting the 8,000 value as well. So user can know, yes, I mean, by mistake, instead of greater than equal to 8,000, I am typing less than 8,000. So this is not correct, right? So let me type the 11,000. If I do that, the salary will gone because now it become greater than 8,000. Now let me fix my email address as well, right? So instead of that, XYZ, let me type the Harry. Okay, Harry at the rate yahoo.com. Okay. Now, if I now our email address looks correct, so email validation message will also gone. See, there is no email validation message. And now, let me add the first name as well, right? Because I by reading at this message, I get to know that yes, I need first name as well. I forgot to add that in my request body. So let me type over here Harry. Okay. Perfect. Let me send. Now our request will be succeeded. See? And now you can see this is the outdated response. Let me get all the new response. So you can see now Harry Potter email address updated. The salary is also updated, right? And if I let's say yeah, Harry is not on the Yahoo. It is Harry is on the Gmail. Just a second. Yeah, Gmail. So let me type the Gmail instead of Yahoo. So gmail.com. Okay. Let me send that. See, because our request body is correct, so Spring Boot is allow accepting our request body, and it is processing our request body, persisting that request body in the database, and in the end we are getting this response. Now, if I get the first response, uh, you can see now Harry email address is updated to the gmail.com. But now, once again, you have made some mistake. For example, let's say you forgot to add Harry at the rate, you will get the email validation message. Okay, and this same works for the post method as well, right? So let me use the post over here. Okay, and let me switch to the body. Okay, and okay, let me copy one of the response from here. Okay, okay, perfect. uh, Let me just remove this employee ID, and let me update the name, for example, Tyler Swift. Sorry for the spellings if I making any mistakes. Tyler, okay, at the rate gmail.com, and uh, Tyler salary, let's say 20,000. Okay, and yeah, let me make some mistake over here. Let me remove the first name and let's see what happens now. See, it works for the post method as well. Okay, and same goes for the email as well. If I some add some mistakes in the email, I'm I'm getting the same response over here as well, right? So yeah, and if everything is right, then the user will be get persisted. And if I try to fetch all the employees, I should see the Tyler over here. See, Tyler Swift. So yeah, and yeah, forget, delete. We don't need this validation because we are not persisting any data or updating any data in our system. We are basically reading the data from our system. So the validation do not require for the get and delete. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, it works fine, perfectly fine, and yeah, that's how you can add a custom validation message in your application. So that is it for this video. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any concern or queries. I will happy to help you. And if you like my video, please share, subscribe, like, comment. See you in the next video. Bye.